All right, shall we just jump in?
Let's roll, John.
All righty. So greetings and welcome to a new episode of the Johnkew podcast, where we talk about all things related to pickleball gear and technology. I'm John, and I'm joined by my good friend Eddie.
Hey, John.
Eddie, how are you doing, buddy?
Glad to have you back in town. Good to see you again.
It is good to be back, although the trip to Las Vegas was a total blast. We'll get into that in a minute, but
Sure.
I've been kind of flying under the radar since we got back.
Catching up on life.
Catching up on life, yeah. I do have some archaeology work still that I'm doing. So, but one thing, it's funny, spending time in Las Vegas with Chris and his brother Isaac made me realize that I'm never going to be able to compete with the Olsen brothers in terms of sheer output of content. These guys have it down to a science. And so I'm happy to let Chris produce the videos, and his cameras are much better. I really love that the vlog he made recently.
I like Braydon's approach. Just kind of show up with a phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it a day. Piggyback on everybody else, and you're good to go.
I can learn from Braydon for sure. Well, how was your? It's been 2 weeks since we last recorded.
Yeah, I made a quick trip to Raleigh, North Carolina, back for work for a couple days.
Yeah.
We had a 3-day retreat for a bunch of supervisors there.
Okay.
Squeezed in some pickleball as I always do. Caught up with some friends, and it's a good trip.
Same campus that you visited last time?
Yeah, in the Research Triangle Park. It's about, I don't know how many acres. It's a huge campus. We share it with the EPA, but it's a big research center there.
And you said there is a pickleball court.
We do have a
campus.
pickleball court, yeah.
Fantastic. Did you play on that court? Or
No, I played at Lifetime.
Okay.
Yep, there's always a solid group of folks that meet out there.
Do you know them, or you just drop in?
I know them now because I've traveled so much, and over time you just meet kind of the same people.
So speaking of Lifetime, are the courts the same as our Lifetime, where they used to be basketball courts, so it's wood underneath the pickleball?
Yeah, it's got a real soft feel. Basketball court on one side, and rock climbing gym on the other. So there's stuff going on all the time. It's very noisy, but hey, it beats playing outside sometimes.
It beats playing outside. We'll talk about the new the current PPA event in Minnesota is at a Lifetime with the same floors, which apparently the pros aren't keen.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you play there all the time like you and I do, and you go to a normal outdoor court or you go to another indoor facility that's based over concrete, it takes you 2 or 3 games to adjust back to what is I think normal.
Yeah, I remember the first season that I joined Lifetime and they had the indoor pickleball courts. I played all winter there, and then the first game we played a competitive match, Tracy and I, outdoors at the Erie courts, and nearly got pickled. And the ball felt so much livelier. It was like
really fast, right?
Mine were flying a couple of feet out, and it was nuts. So it definitely takes some time. So cool. Anything else happen last couple of weeks?
Just a lot of pickleball when I can.
Well, I will eventually make a vlog or some kind of content from Vegas. But we came back and Pickleball Studio produced a vlog. And there was also, the podcast that we were on with the Pickleball Studio folks. And that was a blast. And we had so much fun. I knew Chris and Will, seen them a couple times before, but we'd never really hung out for days, And that was the first time meeting Braydon. And I just love all those guys. They're just amazing people. We all got along great. And shout out to Scott Phillips, owner of Thrive Pickleball, for hosting us, flying us out. And like Chris said on the podcast, initially we were a little bit like, what if the paddles aren't that great? We don't want to promise reviews. Scott didn't put any pressure on us from the beginning to ever do any kind of review or anything. We are going to, or I am for sure, because they're really good paddles. So that was a really good experience. Really great guy, good company, and he makes good paddles. So everything worked out great.
What was your takeaway from the paddle fitting process that they're kind of known for at this point?
Yeah, so the paddle fitting, I think we talked about it on the podcast before, but mine in particular was similar to everyone else's. So, Scott asks you, what do you think you want in terms of swing weight is the main metric. And I knew that the Ruby was close to 116 to 118. So I told him 118 is probably where I want to be. And then he gives you it blind tests you with 4 different paddles, and 2 of them had the same swing weight. We didn't know that at the time, so it would have been funny if.
So were you first, or you're somewhere in the middle? Or?
I was at the end.
Okay.
So, I heard Scott saying to all the other guys, "Hey, you nailed it. You knew exactly what you wanted." And then I was like, I'm going to be the one guy that thinks he's at 118 and likes a 106 or something,
Yeah.
But yeah, you play with it, and he gives you another one, and they're coated with a colored dot, and you tell him if you like it better or worse, and he gives you another, and then he starts tweaking those with perimeter weighting. So he has the 3-gram strips of lead tape, the pre-cut ones, and he'll put some a little higher, a little lower on the ones that you like. So it's really dialing it in, and it did make me realize that I like a bit more weight on my paddle than what I usually play with. So my stock paddle is the Ruby 60 Ruby. I don't play any weighting, perimeter weighting, so no tungsten or lead tape. And I tried it at one point, just briefly for a couple games, and went back to stock because I like the hand speed maneuverability. But it made me realize that there are many benefits to adding a bit of weight without going overboard in terms of the swing weight, because you can get, if you add it low enough, you can broaden that sweet spot by increasing the twist weight, but not increase the swing weight too much. So again, we'll talk about this later in the podcast today. I think, kind of the deep dive we want to get into later in the podcast is going to be how to maximize lead tape or tungsten tape. Anyway, so roughly 4 and 8 o'clock, and he's putting it down closer to the neck. But
always with 3 grams on each side.
No, so it ended up on mine being 6 grams on each side. So 2
Oh, wow.
2 pieces.
That's significant.
Yeah, it's a pretty big, but it just feels really solid and doesn't decrease hand speed because the swing weight's not getting out of control. And just the trade-offs to me for the increased stability and broadened sweet spot outweigh the heaviness of the paddle.
Do you think that if there was no increase in the twist weight or stability, that you would still add the weight just for the additional power?
No, that really wasn't what I was looking at too much. It's nice. I mean, the power's there for sure.
Right.
But yeah, I'm mostly thinking about how well I can play with the paddle all around, so that that ties in with the sweet spot.
What was the reason for having 2 of the same?
Well, it wasn't just to trick us, but it was also 2 of the same. And once you get into that second stage where you're dialing in and moving the tape up and down, so if you kind of like that stock swing weight of those 2 paddles, then there's the option to kind of tweak those with lead tape afterwards. So that's my.
Which model did they end up using for those?
It was all the Azul.
Azul. Yeah. Nice paddle. Great paddle.
Yeah. It's going to be their first release. So, it's a really good paddle. Again, the Azul is the hybrid Kevlar carbon fiber surface in a hybrid shape. So very similar to the 60 double black diamond shape, and 16 millimeter. I would say it has the sweet spot of a 6-0 double black diamond. The feel of it is a little bit softer in terms of the feel of the ball off the face, but a lot more power and more pop, I'd say.
If I recall, when I played with it a few weeks ago, it felt very dense to me. The Ruby has more of a kind of a high-pitched noise and more of a, kind of a poppy feel. The Azul felt very sort of solid and dense in comparison.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and I was comparing it when I said a lot more powerful and poppy to the 6-0 double black diamond.
Yep.
To the Ruby, I'd say still more powerful, although not a lot. I'd say the power is in line with the Ruby, probably a little more. And the pop is tricky. I think it definitely has more pop than the Ruby. The Ruby, I think, is more control-oriented at the kitchen, more power-oriented at the baseline. And I think if you want more offensive weapons in a paddle and you like the Ruby, then the Azul would be a good choice.
So your preferred setup was 6 grams on each side, more or less at 4 and 7, 5 and 7?
So at each side, starting at the throat, about an inch up from where the top of the handle is, and then that's the first 2, and then the second 2 went
right after
4
the curve.
And 8, right after the curve to maximize the how far from the center of the paddle is. That increases the twist weight.
And how different was your preference from the other guys?
We all landed really close.
Okay.
So Chris, Will, and I all landed on 118 swing weight and very similar arrangements of the lead tape. And Braydon was slightly lower than ours, I think 117, so just a point.
So
lower.
even with 6 grams, well, 12 grams total, it was not even coming out to more than 117, 118?
Swing weight? Yeah, it was just 118.
That's
yeah.
pretty good, actually.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, you can really dial it in with, if you put it below the balance point without overdoing it on the swing weight.
So what's your takeaway for, your own setups going forward?
Yeah, I'll try that setup. I mean, I still have the paddle that Scott fitted me with, and I've been using that quite a bit. I still haven't switched away from the Ruby. That's still my primary, but yeah, I think next stage is I'm going to use some perimeter weighting on the Ruby. Maybe not as much as we did on the Azul. I'll probably start with 3 grams on each side. Maybe put it just below the bend where it maxes out at the neck. And just see there. I think there, after playing with the Azul for a few days in Las Vegas, and when I went back to the Ruby, I noticed, a little more twisting than I was used to. And that's the result of not having that perimeter weighting on it. But I won't be using lead.
No lead.
No lead.
That's out.
Tungsten
Tungsten
only.
all the way. I started using Braydon's tungsten tape. I finally got. I think it was back ordered for a while or something like that on Amazon, but I finally got it. And the thing I like best about it is, well, it's non-toxic.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because I'm always messing around with my perimeter weighting.
Yeah.
But you can take that stuff off and put it back on.
Yeah.
I don't need countless times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas most of the the 3 gram weights, you're done after the first one.
3 gram weights and the rolls of lead tape.
Yeah.
You take it off and it just crinkles up and it becomes
Well, the adhesive
unusable.
is
and the
kind of a
adhesive comes off.
one-time only thing, but
Yeah.
I've probably taken off that tape maybe 6 or 7 times, and it's still going strong.
Yeah. They're very,
I love it.
very reusable. Yeah. And I hate the toxicity of lead and also the waste, Every time I take it off, I had to throw it away. And I'm like, it's going into a landfill,
Yep.
Not good.
Yep.
All right, well, let's move up. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much more about Las Vegas. The last remaining video to come out is going to be through the Pickleball Studio. Chris is going to release the Battle of the Paddle Reviewers, and that was a ton of fun. I
think we're all dying to know who's really the best out there.
I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to say, don't bet on me. But if you're a betting man, don't put it on Johnkew. They're all at least, they're all like half a duper point above me. But there are some surprising moments and lots of good times there.
Looking forward to it. I'm sitting here at home. Everybody's getting gifts, and I got to fetch my own muffins, my own hoodies, my own hats, and you're just giving them out.
Hey, I brought you tacos tonight.
That's true. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a fantastic. Have you had tacos I before?
I have not.
It is here in Lafayette, and it's I've been eating there for years, and it's become suddenly very popular. I think one of the newspapers around here ran a piece on it, but really legitimate street tacos.
Hefe's in Longmont.
Hefe's, it's really good.
Yep, street tacos.
I'm not sure if I've been there, but yeah, good time.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, another podcast, another time. So let's move on to latest news. So we are recording this on Wednesday. I think the tournament has already started, but the PPA event this weekend is taking place in Minnesota. It is the Pickleball Central Indoor USA Championships, and it's taking place at a Lifetime facility indoors, as we mentioned before. So,
how many courts do they have? Do you know?
I don't know. I think
more than what we have. I'm sure
more than what we have. Yeah, a lot more. Enough to host a big event. Yeah. But again, I think it's basketball courts originally, and over that they do like the role of an outdoor pickleball court, but it doesn't get as good a bounce as pure concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, ton of people. Most of the top pros are sitting this one out. So Ben Johns and Lee Waters are not coming. Riley Newman is sitting it out. J-Dub and Dylan are both. I think they're actually doing an APP tour. So they're doing something else this weekend. The Brasha sisters are not playing. James Ignatowicz is out with a shoulder injury. Tyson McGuffin is also out with a foot injury. Gabe and Georgia Johnson, Gabe Tardio, Georgia Johnson are also out. But the cool thing about this is I'm really looking forward to seeing this tournament because there are a ton of new teams of the people that are actually playing. And obviously, it's not going to be Ben and Anna Lee winning
Right.
every title this time.
That alone makes it interesting.
It does, yeah. So any of the we kind of looked through these notes. Any of these new teams kind of catch your eye as something exciting? Yeah, I'll name a few, and you can look ahead as I'm talking. So Colin Johns and Anna Bright, I think, is a interesting team. I'm not sure if they've ever played together, but since Big Papa Jimmy's injured, Anna's playing with Colin, so that'll be interesting. And Colin's also playing with Matt Wright.
I can't remember him playing mixed doubles.
Who, Colin?
Yeah.
It's because he never wins.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that's why I just never see him on Sunday.
Yeah, so Colin and Matt Wright are also playing together, which would be interesting. Deckel and Tina Pisnik.
I don't know that name.
Yeah, Tina is the tennis player we talked about a couple episodes ago that came in. She's a little bit older, but fantastic transfer to pickleball, and I think they'll bring it. Rafi Hewitt and Paris Todd is a new teaming also. Here's a good one that I think is really interesting. Elise Jones and Connor Garnett.
That'll be fun to watch.
That's going to be super fun. Zane Nevertill and Andre Koop. Fed Stackstrud and Rachel Rohrenbacher is another cool one. And on the men's, Christian Alshon and Thomas Wilson. I think that's going to be kind of exciting pairing. So these are, as far as I know, none of these have ever teamed up together. And I could be wrong. That all looks new to me. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Honestly, the mix-up of teams, I think it draws more people. Mm-hmm. It brings a different audience, the one that is kind of sick of seeing the same people on Sunday.
I mean, it's not as fun to watch indoor tournaments, I'd say. Also, just something about the cameras outside look a lot better. The video looks better than indoor footage, but they do a good job. I mean, PPA
is the general consensus for the reason people aren't playing either A, injuries, or B, the format, the facility?
Facility, yeah. I know Ben Johns hates playing inside. He has an old eye injury and he has trouble tracking the ball indoors, and people just hate the bounce. And yeah, so outside of the injuries, I think this is not people's favorite tournaments.
Yeah, I thought about going up to that one and didn't make the schedule.
Well, I know Chris Olsen's playing with his brother Isaac.
That's cool.
With him, he's actually with his brother. Oh God, I can't remember his other brother's name. Patrick? I think it is Patrick. But he'll be probably pitted against Isaac and his teammate. They do live in Minnesota as well.
So with so much opportunity for someone new to take the podium, who are some of your picks for the different events?
Yeah, so let's make some predictions.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so
where do you want to start?
Let's go women's singles. I think it's pretty obvious to me that Catherine Parenteau and Leah Jansen are going to face off in the finals, and I give that to Parenteau all day.
I'm going to go with the underdog here.
Are you? Nice.
Yep. Salome Device.
Oh, okay.
She's, love her or hate her. She's maybe not the fan favorite, but she is a solid, big-time player.
Yeah.
And in certain circumstances has really elevated her game to kind of that top-tier level.
I'd say if it's not Leah Jansen, then it's going to be Salome.
If she has a good day, that battle between her and Catherine Parenteau to get to the finals will be very interesting.
Yeah.
Assuming they both make it that far.
Yeah, for sure. And then men's singles, I'm gonna predict that Fed Stockstrud and Connor Garnett are going to be in the finals. And as much as I'd love for Connor to win, Fed has been on fire lately in singles. Like, he's got so many highlight reels out there. It looks amazing. Like, he's too good to beat right now, I'd say, outside of Ben Johns.
I'm going to go with the underdog again here, and Christian Alshon.
Excellent.
Number 3 seed, as was Salome.
Uh-huh.
I think, again, if he's playing well, he has a really good shot at getting to the finals.
Did you see his vlog with his new paddle?
No. What's his new paddle?
I mean, he has a signature paddle now with Paddle Tech, and he's been using the Bantam, I think, but his new paddle is still in production and still under R&D. But the one he showed has a super long handle, looked at least 6 inches long, raw carbon fiber. Looked a little thinner, maybe 14 millimeters. But with such a long handle, you have a short face as well, and that's part of why he thinks he didn't do so well, because he didn't have time to get used to the paddle. Then he just jumped into a tournament with it, the last tournament. So anyway.
Do you have money on this?
Do I have money on it? No, I'm not a betting man.
We'll bet tacos.
Okay, I'm down with that. Okay, let's move on to mixed doubles. Any predictions from you on that?
I like Wilson and David. I think as a partnership, they hold each other up. And if they're on, just like I've said before with the singles, if they're on and they're gelling, I think they're going to be tough to stop.
For sure. I love both of those players. They're
fantastic.
two of my favorites. Personalities, just super sweet people, amazing players. And I would love to see them take it all on this one. I think they're due. They put in so much hard work. My prediction was that Thomas and Wilson and Vivian David would defeat Jack Sock and Catherine Parento in the finals.
We are in agreement.
All right, women's doubles. I'm gonna bet on Tyra and Paris for this one. It's a pretty shallow field after Annalie Waters is out and a few other people, the Brasha sisters. So looking at that, I'm like, wow, this is wide open for some people that have never taken gold together to do it this time.
I don't see any apparent front runners in this one. I think this one's pretty wide open.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parity in this particular field, and so it'll be interesting to see who comes out.
I think it'd be fun if Tyra and Paris won.
So I'm not putting in a choice for this.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I'm taking a bye.
So men's doubles. I think the obvious choice is Fed and Pablo, although I'd love to see Christian Alshon and Thomas Wilson win. That's such a fun pairing, and it'd be cool to see them win.
I'm here for the number 4 seed, Deckelbar, DJ Young.
Let's go. Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
I think it'll be fun to watch them. They've got an interesting bracket to get there with Hayden and Callan Dawson and some other teams. But I think they've got a good shot at getting to the finals. We'll just have to see how they do.
Yeah, we haven't heard much from DJ recently. I think he's been out with injuries. But, both of those players are so hot and cold that they both have such high ceilings. If they're both on, they could easily take it.
I think that's my theme for the week, is that if we can get some of these teams really sort of gelling and firing on all cylinders, they've got a good shot at the championship.
Well, Eddie, let's talk about the paddles we've hit this week. So we hit a few. I want to talk first about the GRYP Balance-2. So my most recent paddle review was of the GRYP Balance-1. And the thing with GRYP is that they were the first to market having the weighted caps in the base of the handle. So you can put in 10 grams, 15 grams, up to 30 grams in the handle. You pop them out, put new ones in according to your tastes. And one of the things I mentioned on that video is that the GRYP 1 is a elongated curved top paddle, 16.5 inches long with a curved top, very similar in shape, same shape as the Rhombus R1 or the Volair Mach 1. So I had a wish list in the video saying, hey, there were some issues with twisting when I added a lot of weight in the base of the handle with the Balance-1. And I noticed with the 30-gram cap, it was very whippy, it had more power, more pop, which is really cool. But any shots hit off center with that much weight in the base caused a lot of twisting in the paddle. And it was a kind of a weird experience. So for whatever reason, there's some physics involved there. There's a lot of twisting, and I said, hey, it would be cool to try this on a wide body paddle. So something shorter, wider with more twist weight. Maybe it could handle the extra weight in the base. So we both played with this today. What did you think of it, Eddie?
Yeah, if I recall the last time we played with a GRYP, the Balance-1, is that what it's called? I felt like tremendous stability vertically.
Yeah.
But that twisting was such a problem for me. I felt like I just could not extract power out of the paddle because of the lack of that horizontal stability.
With the 30-gram cap, the heaviest cap, right.
That's gone with this. This paddle today, despite the adverse conditions we were playing in, was fantastic. So much power and control. I felt like it was stable in all directions. Really enjoyed the paddle. Be curious to try it with some perimeter weighting added to it as well to see what that does to it. But stock, I'm really happy with what we saw today.
Yeah, I think this hits the sweet spot for the heavier weights in the bottom of the handle because A, it's shorter, so it starts with a lower swing weight. B, it's wider, so it has a larger twist weight. And like you said, that twist weight, I wasn't feeling any issues with twisting, but this definitely increased the power. And it didn't slow down my hands. I even though I haven't weighed it yet, what the static weight is, I imagine it's getting close to 9 ounces, maybe 8.7 or something.
It doesn't feel heavy.
It does not feel heavy because, again, the balance point is low. The weight is below your hand, which is the fulcrum. And I don't think that adding weight below the fulcrum is going to increase your hand speed and maneuverability, but it certainly doesn't hinder it, which is really cool. And that added weight has perks in the sense of added power and pop. So yeah, I really enjoyed this today. I was hitting hard from the baseline.
Same.
Has good pop from the kitchen, and it's a really good control.
Would love to get some more time with it. We only had maybe one game each with that paddle.
I played 3 games with it.
Did you really? Okay.
I played the 2 games with you, and then we had doubles inside, and I played with this.
I forgot about the inside.
Yeah.
But we were outside and 25, 30 mile an hour winds. It was not a really great testing environment.
Yeah, that's true.
But would love to get some more time with that. I really enjoyed it.
So if you were thinking about the grip one, but the balance one from grip, and perhaps you didn't like the shape, and you were a little bit scared of what my comments about the twisting, I would definitely recommend the Balance-2 over the Balance
100%.
one. Another paddle I wanted to talk about, I've had this for a while. The good folks at Aiso, AISO, sent me their Centric paddle. And this is the same shape as the Balance one we were just talking about. So again, the elongated 16.5 inch long rounded top paddle.
It's a good looking paddle.
Yeah, raw carbon fiber, thermoformed. The 16 millimeters thick. The key thing about this is the price, $99.99. So
that is nuts.
$100. Yeah, I mean there are thermoform paddles in the $100 price range, but this is a really good option. There aren't many, obviously. There aren't many at this point. There probably will be more in the coming months, but this one felt identical to me to the Rhombus R1 Pulsar and the Volair Mach 1 Forza.
I really enjoyed that paddle as well. Super solid. The other $100 paddle that comes to mind is the Vatic. Mm-hmm. If you had $100 to spend, how would you spend it?
Well, it depends on so the Vatic Prism Flash is the one that's under $100 with discounts, and you can get a discount on this Aiso too. I'll get my code up in the video comments or the video description. But yeah, so this one is more power oriented. It's a longer paddle, so you're going to get more power. And so the Vatic Prism Flash is much more control oriented. It's a fantastic paddle. It's not fully thermoform, but it does have edge foam. Mm-hmm. And if you're a control player, I would go for the Vatic. If you're more all court paddle or power oriented, I'd go for the Aiso.
Perfect.
Yeah. How about you?
I agree.
Any other thoughts on it?
No, I mean, it felt very stable in the hand. Like the grip, I felt like it had plenty of power.
Yeah.
Again, we're driving against 25 mile an hour winds, so we'll have to come back to you later on when we have more thorough evidence. But it was solid.
The spin was good. And again, it's raw carbon fiber, so I imagine it gets maybe around 2,000 RPM. We'll see.
We've got 2 raw carbon fiber paddles on the table here, John. They both have white trim and white grips. Mm-hmm. I love the look.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, it's a very sophisticated color combination. We're seeing it a lot, and I dig it.
It's nice. I mean, I think we all were tired of black on black on black. Black raw carbon fiber with black edge guards and black handles. So, yeah, I dig it. Speaking of black on black on black. So
times 3.
Yeah. Ace sent me their collection of paddles, and Ace is the brand. Each paddle is named after a suit of cards. So we have the Ace Club, the Ace Diamond, and the Ace Spade. So let's start with the super thin one. This is the more unique of the 3. So the Ace Diamond is a 10 millimeter raw carbon fiber face. The core is aramid. So if you haven't played with aramid, it's a lot harder in the core than polypropylene, which is the usual core. So, and it's super thin. So thin cores are harder and crispier anyway. So when you combine Kevlar Aramid together with the thinness, you get quite an experience. What did you feel about this one?
You get a poppy experience. It's a pop monster.
Yeah.
That one. Everything about that paddle is thin. The grip is super thin. Obviously at 10 millimeters, the body is thin as well. But
Right.
man, that thing was really weird.
I'm pretty sure it's thermoformed, and the grip is a little weird for me too, because you can tell they carried the core down through the handle as most thermoformed paddles do, but it's thinner than it's wider than it is. It's thinner in this dimension than it is in this dimension. So
Correct.
It follows the dimensions of this really thin core. So when you're holding it, you could get used to it, but to me, it felt a little funny in my hands. I
had trouble controlling it. I had trouble generating power with it. I think the pop is there. But who is that paddle for?
The pop is there all day.
Yeah.
I especially in the wind, I had the wind in my face, and I was swinging with all my might from the baseline, and it was hooking in, but it was very mediocre power. All pop, no power is kind of how I would describe this. Although you are getting really good drives with this. I mean, you have good drives anyway, but I was surprised that the velocity.
I had a tailwind helping me out.
Well, yeah, good spin on this too, but yeah, who is it for? There are people, if you're coming from Pro Kinetics and you like the ultra thin cores, then this is an option, but it's way stiffer than any. Pro Kinetics are stiff enough. This is another level of stiff.
It's pretty whippy, though, I would say. I didn't get a lot of kitchen time with it, but I would say at the non-volley zone line, it's probably pretty maneuverable.
Long handle, elongated shape, 16.5 inches long. It's kind of your standard carbon 1X rectangular shape. But for that shape, given that it's so thin, it is very lightweight and maneuverable in the hands.
It's bizarre.
It is bizarre. Yeah, it's a niche market, I would say, for this paddle. If you love really stiff poppy paddles and you're not so concerned about power from the baseline, this could be an option. But I like it. I like it that it's something slightly different than everything else out there in the market. Whereas these two are very kind of right in line with most of the other raw carbon fiber paddle options on the market. So we have the Spade and the Club. And the Spade is a Gen 1 paddle, so it's not thermoformed. And I would say, I haven't played with many Gen 1 paddles for a while, but I can't remember ever playing with a softer paddle than this. It feels nice. If you like that control game, then this is a good option. As a Gen 1 paddle, it's not anything special. I can tell it does not have the exposed polymer in the cores. They've got something covering the core in the handle, which is kudos to them for recognizing that. What are your thoughts on this one, Eddie?
It kind of took me back to one of my earlier paddles, that being an Engage, where the ball it felt like it was sitting on that face for a long time, being so soft. And that's not a terrible thing. I think it's good for control. There's some power that can be generated with that type of effect as well. But definitely a throwback.
And today wasn't the best day to test a control paddle either, because it was all swing for the fences with all the wind.
We just barely touch it and have the wind carry it.
We weren't getting a lot of cat and mouse dink battles today. But one issue I'd say right off the bat with that paddle in particular is I think it's $190 or $200, and I'd say that's way out of the price range where a Gen 1 paddle would be comfortable today. 2 years ago, maybe you can get that much out of it. But, I'll take a look more at the specs. Maybe there's something special in the construction that they want to charge more for. But I'd say that they need to bring the price down if they want this paddle to sell. And then they have the Club, which is the same shape as the Spade, but it's thermoformed. And again, 16 millimeters thick, this elongated shape, rectangular, also raw carbon fiber on the surface. I felt like this one played really well to me. If you want something in between a Gen 1 and a Gen 2 paddle, if Gen 2 paddles, the thermoform paddles are too powerful or poppy for you, if you tend to pop up the balls and you want something more muted, then this is a good choice. It felt much softer to me than most other thermoformed paddles.
I didn't get a lot of time with that one, but I agree with that assessment. I'm just struggling to find anything really special about it that I would say, man, this is really sort of trend setting or something different here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they feel like, well-made paddles, but there are many, many other options out there that are very, very
But
similar.
I think you're spot
right
on.
now.
If you feel like the Gen 2 is just a little bit too much for you, and there are people out there like that, then this might be an option for you.
I was surprised, and I couldn't remember when I brought them out which of the club or the spade was thermoformed and which was Gen 1. I had to feel around on the handles to figure it out. But it would be hard if you gave me this club and didn't tell me anything about it. I'd be hard pressed to say that it was thermoformed because it doesn't have that. The ball doesn't come off the face very hot like thermoform paddles, and it has a more plush, softer feel. But that's a nice feel too. Depending on your play style.
Is there a fourth model, the Heart?
No, not yet. But you can bet that they're coming out with
They're
one.
working on something.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So those are our paddles for the week.
So out of those 5, if you were to have to put some money on the line, I'm thinking you'd probably pick the GRYP.
Yeah, I'd definitely go. I could play with the GRYP.
That was a lot of fun.
100%. To me, it reminds me a lot. Again, it's wide body, but it reminds me a lot of the Volair Mach 2 Forza with the options to customize the weight. When you put that 30-gram cap in the base of the handle, it really is a unique feeling paddle. And I think I love it with that much weight. I don't know if everybody would, but you have the options. So yeah, how about you? Which is your
Absolutely, and so much better than the GRYP 1.
Yeah,
any day. I'm not even sure who the GRYP 1 would be for, given the outstanding performance of this particular model.
All right, well, let's move on then to the tip of the week. So, like I said, I wanted to talk about where to put tungsten tape on a paddle.
Why tungsten, not lead?
Yep. Shout out to Braydon at Pickleball Effect. His tungsten tape really, it's like, for all the reasons we talk about it, it's way better than lead. But if you are going to use lead, if you can't get a hold of Braydon's tungsten tape, Selkirk also makes tungsten tape. The difference is the density of the tape is much less. So you have these really thin strips with Selkirk, and you have to put them, side by side and go all the way up the paddle face. So you can't localize the weight with the Selkirk tape like you can with Braydon's tape or with
Unless
lead
you
tape.
cut it and double it up.
Yeah, you could do that and stack it up. That's an option too. But if you're choosing lead tape, I would definitely choose the pre-cut 3-gram strips because most of those do have a film over them that protects a little bit more from the toxic lead. And also, they're easier. You don't have to cut them with scissors. And you can adjust them easier on the paddle face. Like you can put one here and put one a little further up. It's just easier than the roll. I've used the roll now for years. I think I watched a Ben Johns video when he was with Franklin on which lead tape he used, and he linked to the Amazon page where the lead tape was. I've been using that lead tape ever since. I still have some rolls of it, but definitely I would recommend getting the 3-gram strips if you can't get the tungsten. So let's talk about how to optimize lead tape. One of our friends, I won't call her out here, but she never modified her paddle. She had a carbon 1X, so the elongated one. And one day she decided that she wanted to put lead tape on it. She wanted a little more power. She put it from here all the way across, 2 grams per inch lead tape, the heaviest lead tape, all the way over. And she's playing with it in
like 20 inches of it.
20 inches of it. It must have been a swing weight of 140 at least. And she's playing with it. She's like, yeah, I think I have a little more power. I'm like,
a little more.
Is your elbow hurting? And so there are people that would benefit from learning, how to optimize lead tape. You don't want to do that. I don't think anybody wants to do that. Even Riley Newman, he puts like lead tape across the top of his paddle. He used to, and he was playing with
That's such a dramatic difference when you put weight up there.
It is. So what you're looking for to optimize the placement of perimeter weighting on the paddle is typically you're going to want to maximize twist weight and minimize swing weight. So what's the difference? Twist weight is literally measured when you stick this in a machine and it twists it, and it's measuring the twist, the force that the back and forth of the twisting. So anything with perimeter weighting on it is going to have a higher twist weight. Anything that's wider is going to have a higher twist weight. And twist weight correlates to A, stability of the paddle, less twisting in your hands, and B, the width of the sweet spot. So it's not always the case that a higher twist weight has a larger sweet spot, but it's a good kind of measurement that you can look at and say, okay, this one has a high twist weight. It's going to probably have a larger sweet spot. Okay, that doesn't take into account the length of the sweet spot, but I think most people's perception of the sweet spot, most people want a wider sweet spot rather than a longer one. Not everybody, but most people when they hit it off center are typically going to hit it left or right rather than up high or down low. So again, you want to maximize twist weight, minimize swing weight. And why do you want to minimize swing weight? Well, the more the swing weight, the heavier it's going to feel in your hands, the less maneuverable it's going to be. The perks to swing weight, higher swing weight, is that it does increase power, right? You're hitting something with more mass. The paddle has more mass. It's going to put more velocity on the ball. But it's going to impact your hand speed and maneuverability. So it's going to be a trade-off. You don't want to be at the kitchen with a 140 swing weight paddle if you're not anticipating exactly where the ball is going every time, because you're not going to be able to get that paddle across the plane of your body as quickly as you would a lighter swing weight. So
and it's not just a kitchen phenomenon either. When you are trying to put topspin on a drive from the baseline or no man's land,
right,
that increase in swing weight can definitely alter your ability to do that effectively.
So if I wanted to give somebody like the Cliff Notes, okay, where do I put lead tape or tungsten tape on a paddle? Well, start off with this method. When I say 4 and 8 o'clock, a lot of people I noticed in the video comments aren't sure what I mean by 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. So to maximize the twist weight, the closer you put it to the center plane of the paddle, it's not going to have any effect on the twist weight. That's why these caps, the weighted caps in the base of the paddle, do not affect the twist weight. So you want it spread wider. The wider you can spread it, the more it's going to affect twist weight. So again, put it in the handle, it's not going to do anything for twist weight. If you put it here, it's going to affect the twist weight a little bit. You can I used to put it just below the maximum width of the paddle. That's where I put it. And that's pretty good for twist weight, but not as good as right here and right here. This on this paddle is the maximum width of the paddle all along this edge. And the reason why we're putting it at 4 and 8, so the bottom of these widest parts, is because this is typically below the swing weight. And the further you go up, the more head heavy it's going to be. And
what do you mean below the swing weight?
I said swing weight. Below the balance point. Thank you for that. So the balance point is literally where the paddle balances on your finger. And you can see that on this one, sometimes it takes a minute, but this is the balance point on the Aiso. So you can see right here. And anything below that is going to minimize the swing weight. Yes, it'll bump it up a little bit unless you put it in the very base of the handle, and then it doesn't affect the swing weight. But this is the balance point. So you can see we have a good inch below the balance point to put lead tape on the widest point of the paddle. That's why I put it right there and right there. Not here, not further down the neck, but as it tapers out to its widest extent, just right there. And typically that's going to be below the balance point, and it's going to minimize the swing weight and maximize the twist weight. So if you're using the pre-cut 3-gram strips, that's perfect. They're about an inch long. That's going to be below your balance point. If you're using tungsten tape, then you can cut. If you really want to minimize the swing weight, you can cut 1-inch strips and stack them on top of each other and put them right here and here. And that's going to be, 2-3 grams on each side, or 2 grams on each side. So that's where I would recommend everybody start. That's going to feel best to most people. And if you're one of those people like J.W. Johnson, who has, Fred Flintstone forearms, and you can get more power and not lose any hand speed, you can experiment with going higher up on the edge. There's also some benefits to adding it lower. If you don't get enough stability with the 3 grams on each side, you can either stack more on top of each other here, or you can stack a couple down here. This is actually what what Scott did at Thrive when he fitted me to the Azul paddle. I've got 3 grams here, 3 grams here, 3 grams here, 3 grams here. So it's going down a little bit on the neck of the paddle.
So would having weight at the 9 and 3 increase twist weight any more than where you're suggesting?
No. So if you go up, you put the same amount of weight right here, the twist weight is going to be exactly the same as putting it down here, but the swing weight will be significantly higher at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. My approach is a little bit different because I'm more tolerant of additional swing weight, upwards of 3 to 4 points. So I'm okay at 118 to 120 swing weight. So what I'll do is I'll actually put the weight so that the midpoint of that 3 gram strip is at the balance point. So I'm not changing the balance point whatsoever by centralizing where that weight is.
Right.
So right at that halfway point of my strip of tungsten is where I'll put that, right on the balance point. And so I feel like the feel of the paddle doesn't change for me, but I'm getting those additional benefits with just a touch more swing weight, which I'm okay with because I do like that feeling of power.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like if you like the way a paddle feels in terms of its balance, then don't screw too much with the balance point by adding weight above or below the balance point. So actually, when I interviewed Andre Daescu, he mentioned he does the same thing. He liked the balance point of the paddle, but he needed a lot more weight. And he would put lead tape at 4 and 8 and then not at 4, at 3 and 9 to get a little more power, but it became more head heavy. So he counterbalanced that with lead tape in the handle, which I thought was an interesting way to do it. So yeah, you're saying you kind of center it on the balance point, which keeps the same balance point.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
With the very important footnote that the swing weight is going to change, and you have to be willing to accept that.
Even a little bit of weight just below the balance point increases the swing weight a little bit, just because it's still above the fulcrum, right? Anything above the fulcrum is going to increase the swing weight. But the lower you go, the less it impacts the swing weight. Yeah, so there you go. Where to put tungsten tape.
So if you get a stock paddle, I mean, is that the very first thing you do before you even hit it? Do you start adding weight to it, or do you hit first and see how things progress?
I always hit with the stock, see how I like it, and then I mess around with lead tape after that. How about you? I think I always see you with lead tape, but I'm not sure if you play with it stock first.
I do try and play with it stock first just to see what the performance characteristics are like without it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's obviously a good starting point, good baseline, right? But I would say 8 times out of 10, I'm doing something with the weight. I mean, isn't a broader sweet spot always better?
That's a good question. How broad? How much is too much twist weight? Eventually, twist weight probably not nearly as much as swing weight also affects maneuverability, though. So, I'm thinking of like backhand roll volleys, at the kitchen. So there's some natural twisting of your wrists when you're hitting those. So I don't think it matters nearly as much as swing weight, but yeah, eventually at some point that's probably going to slow down the twisting motion of your strokes as well. So maybe more difficult to do flicks, but maybe we can address that on a future podcast.
Sounds good.
All right, gear of the week. So when I was in Las Vegas, Will gave me a ADV bag, the one he's collaborating with. So ADV makes tennis bags, and they're really high quality stuff. And they wanted to get into the pickleball space and consulted with Will. And Will has been giving them ideas like, here, we'd like a pocket here. We need a ball pocket with a zipper here. And so it's built from the ground up for pickleball. It's not like they brought in a tennis bag and said, okay, what can we minimally do to change this to a pickleball bag? So this bag is really good stuff. I've always had a thing for bags. Like I have a really nice...
That's weird, John.
Travel bag. Is it weird? A really nice travel bag, just like leather, and something about the materials and having a bag that I can trust. I've always loved that. I've got a really nice travel skateboard bag. You can stick your skateboard in it. And it took me forever to find that one. It took me forever to find my kind of travel bag that I put my laptop in. And now I have an equally quality bag for pickleball too. And Will did a really good job with designing it. And there's so many cool little things about this bag. First of all, it's really well made. The straps, you can tell, are top quality. Nothing's really going to break. And the pockets on them, you can access them from outside, and then when you open it up, you can also access the same pockets from the inside. There's key hooks, and the pockets are in the right place. The space inside is good. It feels really good on your back. One of the issues I had with the Selkirk bag when I use that, it's a square shape, and so is this one. So I was like, I didn't like the way the Selkirk bag felt on my back when it was fully loaded. It just felt like I was carrying around a cardboard box on my back with straps. This one is very comfortable. It's ergonomic, fits your back really well. And yeah, so I really dig it. I think Chris already mentioned it, but we both have the early iteration of the 6.0 bag, and my top strap broke when we were in Las Vegas. It was fully loaded. I had 20 paddles in it or something, but yeah, that was unfortunate. I picked it up and that one of the sides of the top strap broke, and Chris's was frayed, nearly broke. And Dale from 6.0, sent me an email and said, yeah, we looked into this and it's an issue. We'll be fixing it. So he's aware of it. They'll be fixing it, but it's unfortunate, that happened, because that's a great bag, for $130. It's one of the largest bags, and I still use it even with the broken strap when I need a lot of extra space, when I'm carrying my tripods and other things in it.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily an anomaly. I've had several bags break in the same way. It's probably just a general weak point for all bags.
Yeah.
Unless it's they make special efforts to secure that area. Yeah. Had that happen with a Selkirk bag one time, but it happens.
It happens, but yeah, I mean, Dale's not too stoked about it. He's and they're going to reinforce it so it won't happen.
So what are the plans for the ADV bag? When are people going to be able to see that and be able to purchase it?
So it'll be a Kickstarter campaign, and that's going up pretty soon. And I don't know the price of it. I imagine it's probably going to be a more expensive bag just from looking at the quality of it. And I wouldn't expect the top strap to break on that. I looked at it, and it's a very, very sturdy strap, and the sewing on it is pretty crazy. So I think probably in the next couple of months, they'll probably be, depending on the Kickstarter campaign.
I didn't get a good look at it, but one thing I did notice, and Will's talked about this on the Pickleball Studio, the interior pockets are all, I think they're white or silver.
Silver, yeah.
And that little thing is such a huge difference. Finding keys and little things you need, your carbon eraser. Man, some of these bags are just a cavernous mess it's like a black hole in there, and you never find things. But having that light textured surface I think it's just the way to go.
It's the little things like that really come together to make this a special bag.
That's exciting.
All right, let's move on to Q&A. Did you see any reader questions that we want to talk about this week?
Yeah, we got some reader questions. I also had a question based on some of the conversation that you all had in Chris and Will's podcast. One of the questions that came from one of their viewers was, with all the reviewers out there, and it's more than just you, Braydon, and Will and Chris. I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 competent reviewers out there on YouTube and even in other spaces. I think a comment you made during that conversation, in trying to find someone that you trust, one thing that you can look at is your play style similar to their play style? I mean, there's no point in comparing one reviewer if they're a 5.5 player, a pro, and they play completely different than you.
Right.
You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, no, I think that people have different body mechanics, and you can kind of tell when you watch somebody play if they have a similar play style as you do. And I think that's probably important to putting some weight on what their preferences are. Now, I have data that applies to everybody on the paddles.
Yep.
The paddle database is the paddle database. There's no kind of real subjective metrics in there. It's RPM, power, pop with miles per hour on it. But yeah, the stuff like I feel like this paddle has good control. Some of the metrics apply to that, but for my play style, it may not be the same. Somebody's perception may not be the same if they have a completely different play style. So yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that.
So if somebody's thinking about, okay, do I listen to Johnkew or do I not listen to him? What is his play style? How would you define your play style so that someone can make that decision for themselves as to whether or not they're fairly similar to you?
So I'd say that, my play style would be highly inconsistent, horrible footwork, and injury prone.
Okay, well,
So
that's something
you.
to build on. Okay, good. If that's you, you found a home. You're at Johnkew Pickleball.
I imagine there's a lot of us out there.
Well, if I'm to be fair, I would say that you use your size and height very well. Your ability to block at the kitchen line and use your wingspan, I think, is excellent. So in that regards, I think you make use of a paddle with pop very well because if I hit a ball towards you or anywhere close to you, chances are it's coming back with some pace, and I think you utilize that very well.
It's good to know too. It's good to hear other perspectives of your play style, right? Because one of the things I noticed when I first started watching videos of myself play, I was totally cringed out. I was like, oh my God, I look horrible on video. And secondly, I don't play like I thought I was playing, Yeah, and it's good to have, especially like an outsider's perspective on, and especially an opponent on the other side of the net, how you play. So
and you play with a lot of power too. I mean, if you're in the mood and you're feeling confident, I'm scared sometimes to receive serve from
you have no problem getting everything back. That's one of your amazing strengths is like everything's coming back no matter where you hit it.
But I would put your game at power and pop.
Okay.
And the blocks are just, I mean, they're always spot on.
If I had to classify my game, it'd probably be trying to leverage my length and hit the powerful shots when they're there, and not so much the consistent dinker. I've gotten a lot better at that over the years, but I wouldn't say that control is necessarily, or resetting is necessarily my strength.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see you with a Lux or a 003. I see you with, I think the Ruby, which is one of your primary paddles now, is probably a good fit for your style. Yeah,
and then one thing, so the Ruby is not that poppy, but you can generate enough pop with it. But what I like about the balance of it in terms of the power pop spectrum and power control spectrum is that the control is there because the face feels a little softer. It's not as poppy, so I'm less prone to pop it up. So that keeps me in the game a little longer than a poppier paddle does, and I'm able to produce enough pop with it with faster swings that it's still weaponized at the kitchen. So good point. Look at the reviewers. You can trust a few of us 100%. There are several of us that are pretty well trusted in terms of not giving false data or not thinking about things before you give an opinion. And then whoever you associate with in terms of your play style, that's where you want to kind of listen to their opinions of things, because everybody has. You can't be 100% objective with your reviews. You're always going to give some feelings in there as well. So that's the part of the reviews where you probably want to align yourself more with the player you see yourself being more similar to.
Yeah, start with the data. Let that be sort of a driving factor to get you in the right direction. But that subjective, that feel piece, maybe is the thing that puts you over top with a certain person.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, good question.
Another question came in, and that is, what's in your bag? Like, if you were to go to a tournament or a serious wreck situation, how many paddles are you carrying, and what are those paddles, John?
No, I love that question. Do you want to go first on that? I'd like to know what you have. What
you would currently,
take to
if I'm in a serious situation, I'm carrying 3 paddles. And some of that is driven by how I'm feeling on a certain day, but some of it's driven by the style of play that I'm hoping to generate on a certain day. Maybe I need more length on certain days. Maybe I'm feeling a need for power if there's wind in my face, for example. So for power situations, I'm carrying the Gearbox Pro Power, elongated. Have had that in the bag for a long time. For more of an elongated situation, perhaps singles or something along those lines, the Hirache Control Plus is currently in the bag. And for kind of that, here's the Hirachi right here.
So the Hirachi
X,
right?
Control
right.
X, I think it's called, by 11/6/24. This is a great paddle. This is such a great paddle. I love this long handle. And again, for situations where a little length is needed, that's in the bag. And then to round things out, currently, kind of an all-court situation and an all-purpose paddle is this Shapeshifter by Chorus. This is the 18K carbon fiber weave offering, triaxle weave. This thing is really, I think, a nice combination of everything. So I would probably reach for this first and then switch to other paddles for other situations.
No, that Shapeshifter I was very impressed with. And you've been playing with it for the past couple of weeks, not
I think I'm about 25, 30 hours into it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Solid paddle. Like I don't think my thirds have ever been as good as with that paddle.
I didn't realize until recently it's actually a sort of a triple layer face on each side.
Like in terms of the carbon fiber layup?
So it's the 18K on top, and that's what you see. Beneath that is Toray, and beneath that is fiberglass.
Oh, okay. So they do lay up with fiberglass and carbon fiber.
And I can feel that power, that fiberglass power layer under there. So when I'm taking a full swing, I'm definitely generating power that I might not otherwise in just a standard 18K face.
That seems to be kind of the ticket lately. You like the Hirachi X.
Yeah, same reason.
And I agree. It's not new. The people have done it before, but something about the newest iterations of these paddles with that particular layup are really good.
Yeah. How about you, John?
So, what else besides the paddles in your bag? Do you have for going to tournaments? Do you typically carry like electrolyte drinks and other stuff in your bag? Yeah,
I should probably do a little bit better job at hydration and those kinds of things and recovery. I do carry electrolytes, Liquid IV, or I'm not really picky about what brand. I feel like they all do something, more or less the same. But no towels, multiple hats, because I sweat through hats like crazy, particularly for an outdoor tournament. That's about it.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm eventually going to – I recognized the need a few weeks ago for a detailed packing list for my pickleball bag.
Well, you should publish that when it's ready.
Yeah, because I've done it for my work. I did a lot of camping surveys in archaeology where we go out in the middle of nowhere and we're there for a week or two, and you don't want to forget things in that situation. So I had this really detailed pack list for those trips. I need to do the same for my pickleball bag, and I haven't yet. So it's surprising because I would love to do that actually. So that'll be one of my next to do things. So in terms of paddles, this will be kind of a rough list, and I'll get it dialed in later. But in terms of paddles, like you, I like to have a few options. Definitely your primary paddle that you're playing with, and which in my case is the Ruby right now. But also a couple of options if you're for singles, for example. If you're playing singles, something a little more elongated with a little more power from the baseline, a little more swing weight to it is a good option to have. And something on the lighter end too. So I'd stick with the Ruby for sure. That would be my primary right now. I don't want to be just like you, but for a power paddle, definitely you can't get better than the Gearbox Pro Power Elongated, right? That would be something that not only I would consider for singles, but also if, like you said, in a windy situation, if the wind is on your face and you need to get the ball back, that would be another situation. Or if you're just feeling loose and confident and you think that would be a weapon that you'd benefit from in your game, then yeah, I could see having that. On the flip side of that is often you get nervous and tight in tournament situations, and you need something that A, you're comfortable with, and B, has good control. And I would go, besides the Ruby and the Gearbox, I would throw in a more control-oriented paddle, even more control-oriented than a Ruby. Probably the Mach 2 16mm Forza would be my choice. I feel like I can dink with that thing all day. It has enough power that I can hit hard from the baseline, and just good all around pop. It's just such a great all court paddle in my opinion.
I've never even touched one. I should probably do that.
Yeah, you're welcome to take one of mine.
But
here.
there is something to be said for just that paddle that you can turn to when you're not feeling super focused. And you're not feeling loose. You're probably feeling a little tight. And there should be that paddle in your bag that you can turn to with confidence, knowing that, if things aren't 100%, you're still good to go.
Yeah.
The gearbox is not that paddle.
No, it's not. You've got to be feeling on top of the world and 100% confidence in your game. To
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in terms of other gear in the bag, electrolytes, towels, safety glasses, a big one.
We've talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah. Hats, extra pair of shoes, extra pairs of socks. One big thing for me is sunscreen and sun protection. And I would recommend that for everybody. I used to think I was invincible too, but I've had several. The dermatologist is very scalpel happy. This large, gnarly scar on my neck was from some sun damage that was taken out of my neck. So, I have a neck gaiter. I think those are nice too, especially in really hot days. You can just get them wet with some cold water and put them on. It's like an air conditioner, like a swamp cooler on your neck. And I also wear sleeves, like the cooling sleeves, which they feel nice anyway, and they definitely protect you from the sun. So, yeah. Highly recommended to get some.
You wear a hat when you play, right?
Protection. I wear a hat too. Yeah.
Baseball cap.
Yeah, usually baseball cap, and you can pull the sleeve up over your ears if it's really sunny. You can really get good protection with the gaiter, neck gaiter.
We'll revisit that topic because things change all the time. Every time I go to a tournament, it feels different, and certainly our choice of paddles is ever changing. But I guess for now, those are our choices, right?
That should do it. I mean, we've covered everything in our list. Anything else you want to talk about?
So there was one funny question that came in on the last podcast, and that was, so John, when are we going to see a Johnkew pickleball paddle? You're kind of got that science engineering background, so you'd be the guy to design and build one, right?
It would be fun. It'd be a fun project for me. My issue with it is I wouldn't want to review it. Clearly, I'd have a conflict of interest. If
I'm sure it'd be amazing.
If I made my own paddle and then spoke highly of it on it.
Right.
So I wouldn't want it to be an ego thing like a Johnkew signature paddle, right? That would be silly to me. But something that, first of all, I don't mind consulting on paddles. I have done a little bit of that, and if anything does come to market where I've consulted on it, I'll be open about that as well. But I think that's a good win-win for paddle companies and myself, because I do have, I'd like to think, some good ideas about paddles. But if it was something specifically my paddle, that I brought to market, Braydon actually had a really good idea, and I'll ask him before we put this in the podcast. I'll cut it out if he doesn't want me to talk about it. But people have approached him to companies for signature paddles or collaborations similar to what Will's done. And his idea was to make a charity event where all paddle sales go to a certain charity. So it wouldn't be perceived or it wouldn't be a money grab sort of situation. Because I wouldn't want that either, right? So I think it would be a ton of fun, but I don't want it to be perceived as me trying to make money from this or stoke my ego or something like that. So, yeah.
So what would a Johnkew paddle look like? What would be its defining features? Have you thought about that? Like if you were to release a paddle or put your name on a paddle, what would that look like?
Yeah.
It doesn't even exist today, something similar.
Right. Well, shape would be tough because my tastes have changed over the past year from the hyper elongated Proline Energy, Apes Proline Energy to the hybrid shape that I'm at now. So I'm enjoying the increased hand speed and maneuverability with a shorter paddle and the broadened sweet spot. And I've even gone down to the wide bodies and really enjoyed those. I don't know if I at this point, I don't think I would go to that as my primary, but it's a fun paddle to play with, good option to have. So I would really struggle with trying to decide which paddle shape to go with. I'd probably want different shapes for different play styles. But what I would really love to get into is the materials in the paddles, in particular the cores, the core of the paddle. I wouldn't want a polypropylene core. I wouldn't want a Kevlar core. I would want something that we really worked on, did some R&D, and similar, not exactly like the Gearbox Pro Series, but something equally as innovative, where it involves the use of, in their case, these ridges of carbon fiber stuffed with foam and kind of a floating core situation. I think that was really clever, and it works for power. I would want something more balanced than that, but something that feels a little different, maybe veers into the quiet paddle category as well. I think that's an important thing. And yeah, something very innovative in terms of materials for the core, as well as experimenting with perimeter weighting in its stock form. I think that's clearly a lot of companies are onto this now with the caps going into the bottom of the bases, with other paddle companies, 6-0 among them, already pre-weighting the paddles to certain specifications. That's a big one. The days of just cutting out a paddle shape and polypropylene and strapping and putting a handle wrap on it and some edge guards and then putting a face on it are over, right? We're much more sophisticated than that. People demand better, more sophisticated, more innovative paddles at this point. And I think perimeter weighting is it's here, and something that has a lot of potential in terms of where we can take our paddles.
That is very exciting, John. We hope that someday something comes to fruition.
We'll see.
I'm going to review the hell out of it, though.
It would be a ton of fun. What would did you have anything that if you were to create a paddle beyond what I said? Would you have some other?
Well, I will agree that I think that there is a huge future still in perimeter weighting and customizing that perimeter weighting. I think the Adidas metal bone, although a complete bust in my opinion in terms of performance, is a step in the right direction. Having changeable, movable weights. I can almost see a channel around the outside of a paddle where individual weights can slide up and down in a fashion like that, in a way that's legal, of course.
Right.
But having the ability, and we've seen it in golf, right? We've seen it in drivers where changes in how much and where weight is placed can change the trajectory and even the length of a golf ball.
Right.
And we're going to see that in pickleball as well. I don't think we're there yet. I think people playing around with lead is the start. But I think manufacturers are going to catch on to this very quickly.
And something else I forgot to mention, and something that's been kind of on my mind for a while now, is vibration control. And that can be done with materials inside the core and along the perimeter as well. There are certain kinds of rubber that I can't remember the name of the rubber, but it has some of the best vibration damping of any material, and it's fairly dense. And putting something like that along the perimeter for the weighting inside the paddle could go a long way in making the paddle feel really good, and also decreasing the likelihood of tennis elbow and other injuries to soft tissue. So that'd be another frontier I'd like to explore.
Big change is coming.
Yeah.
One way or another, it's going to happen.
Awesome question. Yeah.
Great.
Anything else?
I think we're good.
It was good to be back doing a podcast with you after a couple of weeks. It seems like it's been longer, but this is a ton of fun.
Yeah, we'll get back to a regular schedule here.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Eddie.
You bet. Next time.